Good morning, everybody. You're all very welcome to this morning's webinar. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to join us on this call. Thanks for taking the time out. We appreciate it. We'll just take a couple of minutes before we start. I have a nice lemsip and honey here.
Good man, Colin. You're looking after yourself.
You have to look after yourself. That's great. I see people coming in, so we'll give it a little bit more time. People still coming in, so we'll give it one more minute. But as I said, we really appreciate you taking the time and joining us this morning. Okay. Morning, everybody. You might pop a good morning into the chat just so to let me know you can hear me okay. Tell us what the weather is like wherever you are. Quite a nice morning here, I would say, on the north side of Dublin. Good morning, everyone. Just pop a good morning into the chat. Appreciate it. Freezing here in Sligo. A very, very nice way of putting it. Morning from Waterford. Dry and sunny in Limerick. This is your weather report. Thanks for joining us. Not a bad day in Bray. Rain as usual in Mayo, Jamie. Feel your pain. I feel your pain. That was said with such heart. Sunny in Kildare. I think there's another wind warning in Mayo, actually. I feel like we're on a permanent weather and wind watch at the moment. Never stops, Jamie. I know. I know. Morning from Cork. Probably the sun is shining in the beautiful capital of Ireland in Cork, I'd imagine. Brightish, okay. And then the sun is peeking through the clouds and awfully. So thank you very much for that. So look, we all have a good sense there as to where the weather is at. I'm Cathal Dibley from Great Place to Work, and I'm joined by my colleague Brian. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Morning, everyone.
Thanks for joining, Brian. So look, for the next 40 minutes, we appreciate you joining us. What we'll do is we're going to take you through um, all about the Great Place to Work program. And we are going to share a few case studies with you that I think will be useful as you think about joining the program. And my colleague Akshita is going to pop the links into the chat as well, so you have access to those case studies if you like. Um, we've over 20 years experience helping organizations build great cultures. So thanks for thinking about us. We'd obviously love to have you on board. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. So pop your questions into the Q&A as we go through it for the next 40 minutes. And thank you to those that sent questions in advance. We appreciate it. We'll look to take all your questions, and we'll have a few polls during the conversation we're going to have for the next 40 minutes. So please feel free to take part in the polls. So thanks a lot for that. So we'll start away, Akshita. So as I said, yeah, we'll have a number of polls, three polls, Q&A. Pop your questions into the Q&A chat. We'll be keeping an eye on them as we go, and we're looking forward to answer your questions. So let's try and make this as interactive, as much of a discussion as possible. I heard on the radio as well this morning that a new phenomenon in workplaces is fail watching, which is colleagues watching their colleagues failing, right? So hopefully we'll have no fail watching today. Thanks, Akshita. Okay, so this we've put together a really, really good employee experience report, not just from Ireland, but also from people across Europe. Nearly 25,000 people were part of this data set, and that report is full of really interesting advice and facts and insights around how you can build a great culture Again, we'll pop the link in there so you have it. But feel free to download that report. I think you're going to find it really interesting as you think about how you build a great culture. Thanks, Akshita. And this is a stat from that report, right? So, in terms of Great Place to Work certification, which is part of the reason why we're all here, we asked people, and remember it was 25,000 people were asked, would knowing a workplace has been certified as a great place to work by its own employees make you more likely to want to work there? And across Europe, the average was 55%, yes, more likely. And from the respondents from Ireland, they said they would be 70% more likely, right, to want to work in an organization that's certified as a great place to work. So just think about all the money you spend on talent attraction. So, you know, there's a benefit straight away in terms of joining the program. So that just gives you an idea of some of the stats that are within that report. I hope you enjoy it. And this just gives you a sense in terms of a range of organizations that we work with, right? It's not an exhaustive list, it's just a sample of some organizations. I know we've got organizations from different industries, different sizes within the call here. Anywhere where there's work being done, we believe that our Great Place to Work program can support you in that work, can support you around your business strategy, can support you around building a great culture anywhere where there's work being done. And we work with all sorts of organizations, all different sizes, and different sectors. So you're all very welcome to join the program. Thanks, Akshita. We're going to have a poll now. And don't worry, it's not about the weather. Do you believe your workplace has a great place to work culture? So, do you believe your workplace has a great place to work culture? Do you believe your workplace is a great place to work? And then there's three options there that you might tick on there, and we'll see how the results look. Do you believe your workplace has a great place to work culture? Okay. We are a great place to work and want to be recognized for it. 60% of people on the call. Okay, well, you've certainly come to the right place. We'd be happy to acknowledge that you're a great place to work, showcase your brand. I need insights to know what is going on in my organization. 10%. Well, that's a key part of the program and you'll find out in terms of how the program works, but a key part of the program is an employee survey that gives us insights around what you're doing well, what you could do better from a work culture point of view. And all our organizations use our program to improve. All right. And we are not there yet, need guidance to develop in culture. That's no problem. 30% of people. Where is there, right? So it's a journey, right? So again, part of our program is we're going to help you get there. We're going to help you improve your workplace culture. If you think of two things, you can be recognized as a great place to work, and also the data that we produce through the program is going to help you identify the areas that we need to work on to improve your culture. So we have something for everyone there. Thanks, Akshita. So thinking about the webinar, there's kind of four kind of main areas in terms of why organizations engage and work with us. One is around employee retention, right? So organizations realize, well, we've got to improve our work culture in order to retain more people or retain our best people. All right. So, building a great place to work will have a big impact in terms of your employee retention numbers. And we've just taken some stats out of that report I told you about. So one of the questions we ask within the survey is, I want to work here for a long time. And best workplaces would rate that question at 81%, whereas the Ireland average this is people that are working within Ireland, population study would come in at 59%. So you can see the difference between a best workplace and the average stat around the working world in terms of retention. And there's two case studies there. And Akshita, thank you for that. You've dropped in the links into the chat. One is from an organization, a client, Esri Ireland, a tech organization, a really good organization when it comes to listening to their people. And we have a case study there around how we've supported them to improve their work culture and how that's had an impact on their employee retention, which is now at 95% in terms of employee retention. And the other case study is ORS, which is an engineering organization, great organization based in the Midlands in Ireland. And again, the case study will take you through the areas they focused in on around improvement and how they improved their retention, which is now at 85%. So really good case studies there where you can learn all about their journey with great place to work. Thanks, Akshita. Talent attraction is another area in terms of why organizations would work with us. And it doesn't have to be one of these areas. It might be all of these areas as to why you're interested, right? But talent attraction, trying to attract the best talent that's out there. We all know how difficult it is to attract talent. Okay. And you can see the stat there that I shared earlier on in terms of talent more likely to choose an organization that's certified as a great place to work. And the case study that we've put in here for you is a client of ours, Cluntech, really good organization based in Kilkenny, tech organization, fast growing. They have really been on a journey around how they listen to their people, how they use the Great Place to Work survey to make improvements to their culture. And from an employee retention point of view, I thought this was interesting. So as they improve their work culture, the number of employee referrals, as in referrals from employees for new people to join, grew from 47 to comfortably over 200 employee referrals every year. So as their culture improved, they now get well over 200 employee referrals in terms of new people to the organization. So think about that in terms of a talent attraction benefit. Thank you, Akshita. Third area is organizations realize that building a great culture has an impact in terms of performance. Right? We all need to set up our organizations to ensure we achieve the best performance, and having a great culture can help you achieve a great performance. All right. We've taken a question from the employee experience report. Employees offer training and development to grow professionally. You can see the difference between the best workplaces and the Ireland average on that piece. And then the case study that we've used here is an organization called Codex. Great organization in terms of office supplies, office fit outs, growing organization. Really good leadership team there that are focused on listening to their people and making those improvements. All right. And they've seen a big improvement in terms of turnover and revenue as they improve their culture and focused in on performance. So enjoy that case study. It's full of interesting insights in terms of that I think you can use for yourself. And then the final reason as to why an organization chooses great place to work is sometimes they think about it from an organizational and learning development point of view. And we've used the case study here of Woody's, an organization that we all know, right? Possibly an organization we spend the weekends at in terms of going through a list and picking up some things, but a really good organization within Woody's. And they started the Great Place to Work program a number of years ago. You'll see in the case study where their trust levels were at. And then they've really focused on building and improving the work culture, focused on a couple of main areas. How to build trust with people, between people and between people and leaders. And they really focused in on developing that leadership and development capability, focusing on helping their leaders become better people leaders. And as they improve their trust and as they improve their culture using the Great Place to Work program, their operating profit increased by 2.4 million when they started to well over 22 million over a number of years. So, and the leadership team in Woody's would very much be of the opinion that correlated with improved business performance, improved performance from their leaders around building trust, is the work they did with Great Place to Work and building a strong culture. So enjoy that case study. And yeah, there's 4 reasons why organizations work with us. You might have different reasons. You might be fitting into all 4 categories, all right? But I hope you enjoyed the case studies. Just on the next slide, then actually, I think we're going to have another poll. Thank you for that. So, which benefit of the Great Place to Work program are you interested in? So, I shared 4 areas there that may be of interest. They're often of interest within our clients. So, employee retention, talent attraction, high performing culture, and organizational and leadership development as 4 benefits. So, you might take a moment there and just answer that poll. Thank you. And a reminder as well, pop your questions into the Q&A. So which benefit of the Great Place to Work program are you interested in? Okay. So 50% have said interested in employer retention, 50% talent attraction, 56% high performing culture, 61 have said organizational leadership development. So that tells us that lots of people on the call are interested in a number of the different benefits, the benefits that are there. The case studies I think you'll find really useful as you begin to make the business case internally as to why you joined the Great Place to Work program. So hope that sets the scene for us. Thank you for taking part in the polls. A reminder, pop your questions into the Q&A. I'm delighted now to hand over to Brian, who's going to take us through the process and how it works. Morning, Brian.
Morning, Carl, and thanks for that. Thanks for taking us through all of those benefits. So in terms of, organizations engaging with a Great Place to Work and where your journey starts, where the process starts. Actually, if you could move on to the next slide, that would be great. And this really, I suppose, sets out the simple process that we have. In truth, I suppose your program begins really with a conversation with Carl or myself to understand your organization. What are the drivers that you have, and what is the information that you're looking to understand from your people within your organization, and then which of those benefits, and is recognition important to you. So in terms of the actual logistic process of the survey element of everything Cahill's talked about there, the insights and those case studies and information are all driven from your data, and your data comes from the employee experience survey. So the Trust Index employee survey is a survey that we roll out to all your people here. So what we've developed is a very smooth process. The piece that a lot of our clients really love is that there's very little demand on their desk in terms of resources and time, because we've developed this process on our side. We have a client success team that will support you. So the first step around the survey, I suppose, obviously is pre-survey. So the client success team are expert in this. They'll help you around pre-survey communication. That's really important in terms of positioning the survey in advance of the survey going live, addressing confidentiality and anonymity, and really preparing that groundwork and laying that groundwork in advance of the survey going live. They'll also capture some information on 2 documents. One is an organizational template, which will give us an idea of the structure of your organization, and that will inform our reporting back to you as an organization at the end. And we also gather some information on a brief document, a company brief, which we use to celebrate your recognition. And I'll come on to that later on. So then we would agree a survey window, and we would launch the survey for you. And the survey window typically is held open for 2 weeks. And we monitor that and we control that, and we're managing all of that process for you. And so then when the survey is closed, this is where the real good work starts, if you like. This is where we then have your data and understanding your organization. We want to come back to your organization in person or online and deliver the feedback to the leadership team, and using benchmarks and understanding what are the areas that you're focusing on, and really starting to getting into the action planning process and prioritizing that for the organization. And of course, based on that data as well, then we have the position where potentially you can be recognized, and I'll come onto that piece as well. So on the next slide is some of the areas that we measure are set out here in headline form. So I'll positioned around the four areas where organizations experience benefits. Obviously, within each of those four areas, there are particular categories that inform those. Where we're focusing on first and foremost is achieving organizational objectives. So they are the areas that are going to ensure that you're a successful organization, and that's really what it's all about. So from the survey data, we can give insights across the organization, the view of leadership, people managers, and colleagues that are staff non-management around communication and involvement, management and leadership, empowerment and accountability. And having understood those, then we can get into personal best. So this is really all about people giving their personal best. What do they need to do that? So what do your best people need, and what are they looking for to deliver for the organization, to deliver on the strategy? And then finally, working together as a team. So how can we measure the team performance and using benchmarks? So when we're looking at your data, as Carl touched on earlier, not just on this call, but in all our clients, we have a range of organizations of all sizes, sectors. So we're using benchmarks to inform all of that. So that's really all the focus around your data piece. The next slide then is around the recognition element. So this is where the conversation often starts with organizations in terms of, well, how do we get recognized? We see other organizations being recognized as a great place to work and being great place to work certified. So the first recognition to achieve is to be great place to work certified, and it is a certification standard. So importantly, we work with our clients on a 3-year basis, a standard. So we're working towards this standard with an organization. And what I've described there in terms of the cycle of the logistic process of the survey, the feedback and action planning is one cycle. So it may be a situation where an organization achieves certified in the first cycle, or it may be the second or third or later. It really all depends where you're starting from. So from your survey data, the scoring is the important element here for certified. The score you're looking for is 65%. Once you achieve that 65%, you're automatically going to be certified and connected in with our marketing team. They will help you with the logo and all of that information that you need and how to leverage that. And I have 1 or 2 slides coming up to show how organizations do that. That's validated for 12 months. So there is no deadline here for certification. Your certification is validated for 12 months. And then you're automatically linked in with the broader team to connect in around other recognition opportunities into best workplaces lists around best workplace for women, best workplace for health and well-being, and our national list of best workplaces in Ireland. But that certification standard of 65% is the first standard that you're working towards, and that very much is a path or a journey for organizations to go on. The next slide, I suppose, touches on what some of Carl touched on around the benefit areas that organizations seek. So internal celebration is not to be looked past when you achieve certification. When you've run the survey, you achieve certification, celebrating internally is huge because it demonstrates very clearly we're listening to our people, we're getting them involved, there's collaboration. Who doesn't like a celebration? You'll see some of the ideas here. There's generally food and cakes and coffee involved. But what you're doing is paying attention to your employee value proposition. And are you delivering what it is that you promised and the culture that you promised for your people? And the next slide then is, I suppose, where you will see great place to work in the market quite a bit, where organizations are celebrating and leveraging great place to work along with their employer brand to really take control of their employer brand in the market. So it gives them the opportunity to say what it is unique around their workplace, why their people are important, and we see all these different opportunities to celebrate that. One point I touched on earlier on was your company brief, which we use to inform a page on our website. So once you're certified, you get to control a page on your website and build out your employer brand story further there. And as I say, really importantly, you're getting to take control of your employer brand in the market and attracting people that are a better fit and a higher quality candidate to your organization. And the last slide that I have here is just based on some of the questions that we got in advance of the webinar this morning was what does some of the feedback look like? So when we're coming back to the organization in the feedback session, we're looking at a range of areas around trust and then all of those 17 categories that I mentioned, and then breaking out your score and cutting that data in different ways. So just looking at some of the areas here, looking at your score versus certified, and an example of a benchmark here. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more data. It's a lot more nuanced for you in your particular organization. And that really, drives the relationship that we have. What is it that the organization is looking for? What are they looking to action plan and build out from there? And this is why very much the 3-year journey piece fits very well. So you may well already have a survey in your organization. That is our final poll for the day, is just to understand, do you as an organization run a survey already? And that's a very simple poll. So do you currently have an employee engagement survey? And that's a yes or no. Just be interesting to see what the results are here. Interesting. So 40% say yes and 60% say no. I think that's pretty close to what our client experience is, Cathal. I mean, some of the larger global organizations will typically have a survey. Some of smaller organizations may or may not. And it's an interesting demonstration of listening to your people, but it's something that we see across our client base for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. In terms of the poll, right? So some of our clients have their own, as Brian said, have their own engagement tool, and they also use Great Place to Work. Some have migrated from their own engagement tool to use Great Place to Work, the Great Place to Work tool, which gives them the data internally, in terms of improving the culture, but also gives them that external recognition piece, being recognised as a great place to work, as Brian spoke about. So we've a few minutes here just before we dive into questions. So the survey underpins everything we do. The survey will give you great data on your culture and how to improve your culture. We'll come back into the leadership team and support you around building an action plan towards improvement when it comes to your work culture. And then, of course, that external recognition, being recognised as a great place to work, will be really good internally, but also for your talent attraction. So pop the questions into the Q&A there. And we got something from Jason Breen from Me Group Ireland, looking for an overview of the process and the timeline. Now, I know you've gone through the process. Could you give Jason just a sense in terms of how the timeline would work for something like this, Breen?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Jason. So depending on the size of your organization, say we'll start with a conversation with one of ourselves, an exploratory call, really to understand, what are the outcomes that you're looking for as an organization, and then we're connecting in with our client success team. So if we take a connection in with client success team as a starting point, ideally leaving a number of weeks in roll-in and pre-survey communication. The survey then is open for 2 weeks. At the early stage, when you are in touch with client success, what we'll be looking to do is book in a meeting with your leadership team for the action planning session at that stage. And then, we'll arrive with the action planning session and the recognition information. So on average, I would say probably 6 to 8 weeks is a fair time frame for organizations, and we can be flexible around that as well.
Very good. And Sean actually asked, and kind of linked in with that, Brian, in terms of like, when do you start, or how do you, like, is there a set date you have to survey on, or how does that work?
Thanks for that. Yeah, sure. So there isn't a set date. So it's really, I suppose, what often will drive that date is when the organization wants to receive information back, when it wants its data. It may have a strategic planning meeting, or it might be planning for the year ahead. So that might be a timeline, or it might be driven more around recognition, or there might be a rhythm to the business that suits. So there's no actual deadline, and we can be flexible around the timing that suits you as an organization. And just to remind again, that there is not a lot of heavy lifting in terms of the survey preparation and delivery. We do that for you, so that's something that we can manage.
Thanks, Brian. And sometimes from a timeline point of view, it's worth thinking about, well, when would you like to receive the data? Like, how soon do you want to receive the data on your work culture, and then maybe work back from that. Um, Mary has asked around what happens. So once we have the survey data in, I can maybe jump in here. What happens next, right? So Mary, we have a very experienced team that has been working with the organization for many years, and they will produce reports, data. We can look at the data if there's five or more responses across the different functions of the business, different demographics. And a key moment is when we come back in with the results into the leadership team, present the results. Usually look for about an hour and a half of the leadership team's time. And at that session, we'll be able to pinpoint exactly what are you doing well from a culture point of view, and what are the areas for improvement in terms of action planning. And of course, we can tell you whether you're certified as a great place to work or not. So we're very much with you. We're very much support you around the improvement and the action planning and the action planning piece. We have a question, Brian, around what is the cost of the service?
Thanks. Yeah, so that's obviously investment is important for every organization, and we'd love to get into that conversation with you. I think actually I may well have shared a meeting link for myself and Carl there moments ago. So around the investment, what drives a lot of that is the amount of employees who will be completing and responding to the survey setup, and again the level of engagement that you want in terms of action planning and support. So on the cost question and the investment area, really like to do is pick that up as a one-to-one conversation with each organization, but very open on that. I would say we're high value and we're low cost in terms of the delivery back to the organization, but would love to pick up that conversation with everybody individually.
Thanks, Brian. So we'll follow up with individuals around that, get a sense as to your culture, what the need is, and then we'll take you through in terms of the investment that's required. And we work on 3 year engagements, so multi-year, and it's a sign up for 3 years, but you can spread the payment annually. But we very much want to understand where your culture is at. We have a question here around, I guess it's somebody who is part of a global organization. Um, can we do a global survey, Brian? Is it Ireland only?
So yes, we can do a global survey, and yes, we do global surveys all the time for our clients. So we can have Ireland as the anchor project, if you like, and then add in the other countries. And there is that opportunity to be recognized globally as a best workplace, but also recognized locally and certified locally in those countries. What we simply need to do is gather your headcount in each of the jurisdictions, and as I say, we run the survey and offer the survey in different languages, different global locations, and we can help you with the timing and the communication around that. No problem.
Right. Thanks for that, Brian. Jason, question in. Does the survey need to meet a certain threshold of completions? Example, 80% of employees completed to count. Jason, how it works is we look for a 95% confidence level. So it depends on your employee numbers that'll dictate how much responses we need. The average response rate we get from organizations is around 75% from a response rate point of view. So typically employees value the anonymity of this process. They know it's an external organization. They value that the organization is committed to building a great place to work, and that tends to drive a really good response rate. But we'll work with you. Your project manager will work with you, Jason, just to make sure we're set up and we can maximize the amount of responses. So there'll be no issues there. But from a recognition point of view, we look for a 95% confidence level. We currently have our own engagement survey. Can we use that for Great Place to Work recognition, Bryn?
So having your own internal survey is useful. because that gives us an understanding of, what sort of response rate you might get, what the feedback is from your people. So sometimes us having a look at that will give us a sense of where the organization is positioned. In order to be certified, though, we need to use the Great Place to Work methodology and framework. And at the core of that is the Trust Index survey. So we do need to run the survey. In terms of rhythm and timing, there's no difficulty there. The employee market and the colleague market currently are very open to giving feedback. So given that you have your own survey, there's no problem finding another time and rhythm within the year to run the Great Place to Work survey, but that is a requirement, definitely.
Thanks, Brian. And it's a good thing that you have, as you said,
Absolutely.
an engagement survey. You have a survey rhythm in place, which is always a good thing, and you're demonstrating listening already, right? Which is good. Remember, the Great Place to Work survey is listening, good listening tool, but also can give you that recognition as well. Um, is there any networking opportunities that Great Place to Work do with other organizations that companies could link in on? So from a learning point of view, Brian, any networking opportunities, Great Place to Work?
Absolutely. We had a great example this day last week, the Employer Branding Summit, where we heard some fantastic stories from our clients across a range of areas of how they engage with their people, how they really use the program to add value to their organization. So there's a natural, I suppose, group networking opportunity there where attendees, we had the opportunity for them to not just to hear client stories, but also to connect in. And as an organization, we would often connect organizations in who would have maybe beginning the process with us, receive their first feedback, starting an action planning. Is there another organization that's been through something similar for the feedback that we received now that could help us, that would give us an insight? Part of what I love about Great Place to Work in our network is that organizations that really get us and get it are very, very open to sharing what they do. I think of Cloudera in Cork are fantastic examples of bringing organizations together, sharing their experience because they know that they too will learn. So it's not a case of look at how great we are. It's a case of actually, this is how we do what we do. This is why we did it. And here's an opportunity for us to learn from you in the future. But the short answer is yes, there's ample direct networking opportunities, and then we would run client-only events as well.
Super, Brian. And of course, once we have the data back in terms of your need, we can match you up with organizations that perhaps are doing something interesting in that area as you work on your action plans. So there's a good community there, as Brian said. Jennifer is wondering how long is the Great Place to Work survey? Jennifer, as Brian said, the survey is based on 17 categories. Questions are bucketed underneath those categories. It takes on average about 10 to 12 minutes per respondent to complete the survey. Very slick. Link arrives in your inbox. Open the link, answer the questions. As Breen said, it's available in all languages. About 10 to 12 minutes in terms of per respondent to complete the survey, Jennifer. Um, so quick enough, I would say. And again, we're getting back valuable data, which is really important to the culture. So on average, about 10 to 12 minutes, Jennifer. Thank you for that, for, for that question. Breen, we're nearly there on time in terms of the 40 minutes. Just one last piece. Struggling to get a person here is struggling to get their leadership team on board with the value and why to join the Great Place to Work program. Any support we have around that?
Yeah, that's a common challenge. It's a regular challenge for organizations and one we really welcome. So the opportunity there would be to get Cathal or myself to meet with you and the rest of the leadership team to position where a Great Place to Work can add value and to demonstrate the depth of the data that we have and the benchmarks and to show where this can add value around retention, regretted loss, talent attraction, performance. All of these areas are key to the success of the organization and to the wider leadership team. It can be a challenge, I think, for some organizations where they see organizations Great Place to Work certified and they say, okay, that's great for them. But what if we don't achieve it the first time around? Or What if some data comes up and we're not sure how to handle it? That's where we're really in our element. That's exactly where we deliver the best value to an organization, to bring you along the journey and to identify what are the priorities in action planning. But at the outset, very much welcome the opportunity to meet with the leadership team, and to position and understand, well, what outcomes is the organization seeking.
Thanks, Brian. And listen, thank you to everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you to the Great Place to Work team.
Absolutely.
We'll follow up with you individually to understand your needs from a workplace point of view. We're very confident with all our years of experience that we can support you to building a great culture, which is going to be good for business performance and good in terms of talent attraction and lots of other areas. So thank you very much for
Thanks, everyone.
the questions. We appreciate it. We'll follow up individually. Thanks for joining us. I hope everyone
Thanks for the support, Akshita.
enjoys the day. Thank you.
Take care, Carl. All the best. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.